Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to be doing a Kickstarter preview for Garden Geckos. This is from 10 Robot Games, created by James Staley, and they've provided me with this prototype copy to show you a little bit about the game. And this Kickstarter will be launching on April 2nd, 2024. So if you'd like to learn more about this cute little game, stay tuned. So let's take a quick peek at the BGG Board Game Geek page. You can see it's planned on being a 2024 release, and James Staley is the designer, put out by 10 Robot Games. It's for a younger age group, and it's a lower weight game, 2 to 6 players, 20 to 45 minutes. You can check out some pictures here if you want. I'll put a link to this down below. When I was first offered to do this unpaid preview of this prototype version, I was pretty excited. I've enjoyed some other 10 Robot Games, but from my wife's perspective, when she saw the geckos and the cute art, she was really excited about it as well. And you can see that says, the garden is full of geckos, scurrying around, capturing bugs, and seeking out new areas to hide. So I'll show you a little bit about how the game plays, maybe run through a couple sample turns so you can get a feel for it, and then tell you my brief reflections having just played at the 2-player count a few times. I'll also put a link down there for this Kickstarter page so you can click on Notify Me on Launch. And like I said, I believe it's scheduled to launch on April 2nd. And I've seen a preview of this page. I can't spoil anything. I don't know what I can and can't share about that, so I'm just going to say check it out. There's some pretty fun things coming as a part of this project. All right, so I've laid out a few things just so you can get an idea about some of the components and talk to you a little bit about the gameplay and the setup. I will say I just have some game trays that of my own over here holding the little components, but these little animal meeples are really cute. I'll put a couple up here closer to the camera so you can see some of these. Yeah, they're really well made, screen printed, two-sided, really cute little bugs. And so that's one of the things that caught my attention and that we've enjoyed just as part of the gameplay. You know, the better the game looks, that does really have an impact. And the tiles are nice and thick. And again, these are prototypes, so I don't know all the details of what things might change, but the card quality is fine. The little wooden geckos here are really terrific, and they are created in such a way to be colorblind friendly. So even though we've got red and green and some other colors may be hard to distinguish, they all have one side that has no markings, and then they all have another side that has little other markings. Like this has little squares on it, this colored in squares, and then the green ones have open squares, and then the other ones, these have little dots on them, these have stripes on them. So you've got a couple different ways, flipping them over to one side or the other and looking at the designs to be able to distinguish between them, even if you have color vision issues. But basically the components are going to be the geckos, and there are up to 6 players. So you can see I've got 4 others, blue, pink, green, and black here, and I've just chosen red and white to demonstrate with. So there's those 6 sets of 5 geckos each. Each player is going to basically portray a family of 5 geckos hunting bugs. And then we have this starter tile that's got a hollow spot in the middle, and the last person to play is going to be able to choose which bug goes here in the middle of these. And the rest of the tiles, I'll show you my hand here. Every player is going to start with 3 tiles. The rest of the tiles all have a picture of the bug on the middle, and they also all have different terrain types. So these would be the 3 tiles that I would start the game with as the red player, and then these would be the 3 tiles that the player with the white geckos would be starting with. We also start with an objective as we play, and the objective for myself is I would want to get the largest terrain that has this kind of decoration, so this pink background with the yellow flowers. I want to try to create a really large terrain of that, and I'll get 1 point for every part of the tile, every section of a tile that has that terrain on it. And then my opponent here has the terrain of water, but there are lots of other objectives. These objective cards have this gecko on the back, and some of them are bug objectives, and then others are terrain. These are just a handful. I have some more, but I actually sleeved them to protect them while we were playing, and they don't show up real well with the sleeve, so I just unsleeved a handful of them. So there's actually quite a few more cards than what you see here on the table. So each player starts with their 5 geckos, the 3 tiles, and the hidden objectives. So we won't know what we're going for as we play. At least we won't know what the opponents are going for as we play. And down here we have the kind of round by round, turn by turn objectives, and they come with this gray back with the kind of geometric design, and these are all terrain oriented ones. So if I can have chameleons that are touching blue at one spot, another gecko, not a chameleon, that's touching the gray in another spot and the green in another spot. And again, it's not just the color, there's also texture to each of these terrains, so you can see by the texture, not just the color. If I can get a 3 different geckos that are touching those terrains simultaneously, then I would achieve this card and I would get the points for the bugs at the bottom. And the more things you're trying to achieve on the objective, the more bugs at the bottom, and therefore the more points you would earn. Then we also have these that have little bugs on the back of the cards, and there are different kinds of objectives here. So if my geckos happen to be touching 2 of these crickets and a ladybug and a fly, then I could claim this one. If I have geckos that are connecting a ladybug to a grasshopper to a moth, they have to be connected because of those lines, I would get this card and gain those points. If I had one gecko connecting a moth to a mealworm and one gecko connecting a moth to a ladybug, I would get this one. I would get those points. So at the end, you're going to gain points, 1 for every bug that's at the bottom of the objective cards you're able to obtain, and then also 1 for every one of these wooden meeples that you might obtain. And you obtain the wooden ones as you surround these. So I'll kind of demonstrate that in a minute. And whichever player has the most geckos around that surrounded piece will claim the tile. So if you get this one, you would just get one of these, and if you were able to surround one with the moth on it, you would just take one of the moths. So at the end of the game, you get 1 point for every wooden meeple, you get 1 point for every bug picture down here at the bottom of your objective tiles, and then you also score for your hidden objective. If you have one of these hidden objectives that has bugs on it, I would want to be collecting moths if I had this card, and I would get 2 extra points for every moth, both pictured and the wooden meeples that I'm able to collect during the game. So that's a quick overview. Let me show you a little bit about how the turns work. It's a really simple game, but there's really a lot going on, and there is another form of scoring that you can have at the end that I'll explain a little bit later once you've seen a couple turns. So let's say that I was the first player, and that means the second player would have chosen to put that there. That way they can kind of see what these objectives are and maybe try to pick something they think it might be harder for me to obtain early. Especially if you had 3, 4, 5, 6 players, someone might be claiming some of these before it gets all the way around, so you might want to pick something that's not even pictured out here. All right, so let's say that I'm looking at these out here, and I see that I've got a grasshopper here, and a grasshopper wants to be connected to a moth and a ladybug. And these would normally not be open for everyone to see. They're normally hidden. I just have them face up so you can kind of follow along as I go. So I can see I want to have a green one to a moth, so I might try this one. And you have to match one side of the tile at least. More can match, but you have to match at least one tile. And then you put one of your geckos on that tile matched color, that matched terrain. So I would put my gecko like that. And now that gecko is connecting a grasshopper to a moth. So this is achieved. I just need to now get that connected from the green grasshopper to a ladybug with another gecko. So I'm on my way to this one. And I also have a gecko on green terrain, the grass, and there are 2 cards out here with grass. So I'm on my way to achieving these and this one here. And so that's something that I'm working towards. As soon as you play the tile and put your gecko, you choose another one. Again, these would all be hidden, but just for your sake for now, I'm just going to flip that up. Then the next player goes. Now, I don't know what they have in their hand when we're playing normally, and so I wouldn't have had any idea that I might be setting them up for something or not. But now they're looking at this and they're thinking, okay, well, they also have a ladybug, and there's a ladybug on this card, a ladybug on this card, ladybug on this card, and so they might say, well, let me go ahead and put this one out, and I'm going to connect the blue and the blue, and put my gecko out there, and so now they've connected ladybug to grasshopper, so now they've got this connection, and they've got ladybug here, ladybug here. They've also got blue, which is on 2 of these terrain tiles, and so they're working their way towards some objectives as well. And then they take a tile, again, normally hidden from view. And so you're always going to have these tiles. Now, as we play, we'll just do a couple quick rounds. I'm not even going to think strategically at all. I'm just going to try to quickly go through. So if I had a ladybug, I'd try to get that. I've got a fly, so maybe I'll work towards this one. So I'm not going to think too much about it here. But let me go here, connect this fly, put my gecko down, and I haven't achieved any objectives, and I haven't surrounded any tiles completely, so I'm not going to gain anything, but I am going to be able to flip this over. And now this player is going to go. They've got a ladybug and they've got a grasshopper, so they've got grasshoppers for these, but they really want to connect to a moth, and they don't have a moth now. So if they had achieved one of these wooden meeples, one thing you can do is turn in one of those wooden meeples to get rid of your 3 tiles and draw 3 new ones. But they don't have any yet to do that with, so they're going to just have to play with what they've got. And so looking at what they have, they want to get some of these grasshoppers out, or these crickets out here. So they also, if you remember their objective, they're wanting to try to get a large area of blue. So maybe they'll go like this, and they're actually connecting yellow and blue. And so they could put it on the yellow, they could put it on the blue. Now they want to connect this ladybug. They've already got it to the green. They want to connect it to a moth later, so they might want to just connect this here so that they give themselves more opportunities to connect that ladybug to a moth later. And now they've got a grasshopper, or a cricket. So now they've got a cricket, they've got a ladybug, they've got a green one to a ladybug, so they're on their way, and they've got yellow and they've got blue. All right, so they grab their another tile. We'll just do a couple more turns, just trying to surround that so you can see what happens when it gets surrounded. All right, and so let's see. I want to get my crickets out there as well. I've got a fly out there already, so let me go with crickets, and we'll go this way. And so I put my gecko down there on the blue to blue, and now I've got a cricket as well. So I've got a cricket and a green one connected to a moth, and then I've also got a fly. So I'm working my way towards those objectives. All right, none of us have been able to complete any of these objectives yet, and so then they're going to look. We're still trying to get this here. We need another cricket out there. We need some moths out there, and none of us have moths, so we're kind of struggling to get those objectives completed. Let's see, they have blue and yellow, so they're not really very close here on these. For me as the red player, I've got green, I've got gray, and I've got blue. So I actually have 3 of these. If my next turn, if I can get that color matched up, then I would be able to claim this objective. But they're thinking about their turn right now. So as they're looking ahead here, they are seeing a moth with a worm. So maybe they'll come out here and see, oh, there is a moth there, but there's no matching terrain to connect the worm. And so the worm isn't going to be very helpful at this point. The grasshopper to a moth might be helpful. So they're going to take their grasshopper and they're going to connect it this way. And so now they've got grasshopper to moth. So they, wait, could they have done? No. Yeah, they're still trying to connect in this sequence. So they've got the grasshopper to moth, and now they still need to get to the, oh, sorry. Yeah, so now they still need to get to the ladybug. All right. It's hard to think for 2 different players. I'm not very good at this. All right, so let me see if I can fill this in just for an example here. So I'm not, again, thinking too strategically, but I filled that in. I connected the pink with the yellow flowers on it. And so now I've surrounded this central tile. We together have surrounded this central tile. And as we look at this central one that's surrounded, the white player has 2 surrounding it. I have 4 surrounding it. So I get to take a grasshopper as my reward. So I'm just going to keep this over here with my objectives. And haven't really been thinking about it, but I would want to be trying to make a big terrain of this. So, but now I've got a grasshopper meeple there, and I could trade that grasshopper meeple anytime to kind of refresh my tiles. All right, we'll do one more turn here for the white player. Actually, we'll do a couple more turns so you can see what happens when you run out of geckos. So they did finally get their moth. So we've got ladybug to green to moth, and so we've got oh, didn't do that right. So we got ladybug to green, but we need the green to go to the moth, and the green is now surrounded there, and so they need a ladybug to get out here. So they still aren't very good on that one. Let's see. Do we have anything else here? They've got crickets, and they've got ladybugs, and they've got, yeah, so they're not very close to that one either. They've got yellow terrain, they got blue terrain, they got dark blue terrain. So if they can get a pink one here, they'll be able to obtain that one. So let's try that. Let's go with the green here, connect that, and now they've got this pink connected, and so they've got a gecko that's on pink, they've got a gecko that's on blue, they've got a gecko that's on the dark blue. So they're going to take this, and that is going to be a part of their scoring at the end of the game. So now they've got these 2 points already earned. And the game is going to end when someone has achieved 6 of these objectives, or all the tiles have been played. And there's a bunch of tiles. So at a 2-player game, I don't think that's ever going to happen. But at a multiplayer game, that's possible. Or if any one of these bugs is used up. And for the tiles, it's when the last tile is drafted that the game ends, and you finish the round and then you score it up. Or the first person to get 6 objectives, and you finish the round, and then you score it up. Or if the last of any of these types of bugs is taken, and then again finish the round. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. So the white player has finished their turn, and they've taken their first objective. And so now I think I had an objective as the red player, if I can remember what it was. So I'm on pink, I'm on green. Oh, and anytime you do obtain these objectives, you flip them over. And if by some chance you just had already achieved that, you can't claim it on your turn unless you play a tile that contributes to it. So you may have already earned it, but you still have to play a tile that matches something on that to gain the objective. All right, so I was looking at this one, and I have one of my geckos on gray, I have one of them on the pink, I have one of them on the green, and I don't have one on the dark blue yet, so I want to get one of these dark blue ones out there. And I'd love to connect a worm to a moth to work towards that. So let's see, can we can't get it to that moth, and that's the only moth on the outside. Yep, so I'm going to have to not worry about the moth right now. And so I'll just get the blue one on there and put this down. And now I've got this one obtained. I've got all 4 terrains, and so I would get this one as scoring for myself. And so now I've got these 3 plus this one. I've got 4 points earned so far. Take another tile, and you're probably seeing moves like, why didn't he do this? But I'm having a hard time with concentrating it on it all while I'm also trying to explain the rules. So it's probably a very poorly played game, but at least you get the idea of how the game goes. All right, and we're still looking to see, are any of them close to being surrounded yet? So this one needs 2, and we could actually get another one surrounded. And let's see, we do need to pull another one of these out. Now they might have this one already. So they got blue, they don't have green yet, and they don't have gray, so they don't have that one yet. I'm sure they don't have any of these. Let's see, they've got the green one to the moth. I remember them doing that, and they need a ladybug, and now they have a ladybug, so can they do it? A ladybug to the green one, and they can. All right, so we're going to go here, and they're going to connect ladybug to green, and so now they've got moth to green to ladybug. So moth to green to ladybug. So they just obtained their second objective, and they're on the move. And so you can see how the game plays. It's really pretty quick. You could possibly have some players with analysis paralysis, just looking at everything and trying to plan ahead. But I think for the most part, people would probably play this game pretty quickly. All right, now if I look here, I got moth to moth to moth. I'm nowhere near that. I don't even have any moths. Moth to worm, which I was trying to do before and couldn't get. Moth to ladybug, which I still don't have as the red player. And so I don't think any of these are going to be close for me. Let's see, blue, green, and gray. I'm on gray as red. I'm on green as red. And so I just would need to get on blue as red. And so I have a blue tile here. So let's see. We could go, I have a couple things I could think about here. I could try to obtain this objective, or I could try to close this in and get the fly. And so I have to think about which one's going to be more valuable to me. And so if I close it in to get the fly, I'm going to get 1 fly. Now there is an alternate form of scoring that at the end, if you have these wooden meeples and you can put them on, so if I had this card in my collection, and I was able to cover it with a wooden cricket and a wooden cricket and a wooden ladybug and a wooden fly, it would mean that instead of 2 points here at the bottom, it would be worth 4. So this player may want to try to surround a ladybug and a grasshopper and a moth, because if they can get those 3 wooden ones at the end of the game with the alternate scoring, this would be worth 8 points instead of 4. You double the number of points you get from the icons at the bottom if you're able to do that. So that's an alternate kind of advanced scoring. But in the regular scoring, surrounding them is valuable because you get the meeples, but scoring these objectives is typically, not always, but often a little bit more advantageous. And so as I'm looking at that, I see I can just if I can get a water there, I can actually gain a card. And so I'm just going to go here. Now if I do this, I am setting the white player up. They could go here and surround one, they could go here and surround one. And so I'm kind of setting them up for some things, but I put that there. Now I don't have any geckos here, so all my geckos are in play. Now I'm trying to get this one, so I want to get one of the geckos on blue. That's why I played blue to blue. I've already got the gray one, so I can't move that one, and I've already got the green. I can't move that one, so I either need to move this one or this one. But now I need to think about, well, which one of these things am I trying to get to? Well, this green to worm doesn't really help me on any of these objectives. This green to fly it gives me a fly, but the green isn't that great. So either one of those really could move. I'm just going to move this one. And once a gecko is down, you can't move them until all your geckos are played. Then you have to move them one by one. All right, so I've put on blue, which means I've obtained this objective. And so that's going to go there. We're going to flip over another objective, and then we're going to take another tile. We'll do one more turn for the white player. And so let's see. They want to surround a green one and a ladybug and a moth. And so if they can put one here, they'll get the green one. And so I think they definitely would try to do that. And so going here, especially if we're doing that alternate scoring, like I said, and they could possibly, let's see, they've got blue, they've got one pink, but they don't have two. They've got light blue, so they're not really very close to this. They're not very close to this. Do they have green, gray, and yellow? Well, they just did this anyway, so I don't see anything that they're going to get right off the bat. There's none of these that they're really very close to, and so, at least not that I'm seeing. And so let's see, they're just going to move. They don't want to lose that grass. Oh, they got a ladybug there. So let's just move this one, and we'll go here. And so now they've surrounded this one, and they get to take one of these green grasshoppers. So if we were doing the alternate scoring, they would want to make sure they keep this, and then they're going to try to get a ladybug and a moth to try to double the scoring of that card at the end of the game with that advanced scoring. So I think that shows you all the rules. Hopefully I haven't forgotten any of the rules. Shows you a little bit about the gameplay, a little bit about the strategy. I haven't even been thinking about these objectives, so this player hasn't done a great job of making a very large blue area yet, but they could be growing it out that way. And myself, I haven't done very well at all, although maybe I could work this pink one out this way. So yeah, probably a pretty poorly strategic game there, but at least hopefully you see a little bit of the flow. And I'd like to talk a little bit about my reflections on the game. I'm not going to give a full review because I've only been able to play it at 2 players, but I would give you some thoughts about our experience playing this game. Well, as you can tell from the video, the components, even in this prototype, are really cute, very well made. I did the cards in this prototype are a little thin. I don't know what the quality will be in the actual Kickstarter, so that's why I did sleeve them. And I think we'll probably get a lot of play out of this game. It's a fun little 2-player game, but I can really see being able to play this with a lot of different kinds of gamers with not much experience, gamers who have a lot of experience. It's kind of a fun little filler game, especially if you like tile laying, and I'm a sucker for tile laying games, and I love pattern building. This one can really make your head start to spin when you're trying to think about, well, how can I get my geckos on all the right terrains? And then as soon as I'm getting close, someone else steals it, or I can see they're getting close to it, so I'm right away, okay, I need to go for a different strategy. And then you're also thinking about getting the bugs, and sometimes the bug objectives are really easy. The ones that have this kind of a design where it's just, I just need those 4 bugs, sometimes that can be really easy, but other times those bugs aren't coming out. And so at times it's difficult to get some of the objectives, and so you're having to rethink and make tactical decisions. And you also try not to set other people up where they can surround one, especially if you're doing that advanced scoring where having those wooden meeples is really valued much more highly. And yet sometimes that's the best move for you, so there's some give and take, and sometimes you might be trying to beat someone to an objective, sometimes you might be trying to beat someone to a connection out there, or block someone from a connection out there. Just all kinds of things. You don't know what tiles they have in their hands, but you can sort of see what objectives they've reached, and everyone knows obviously what the objectives are out for the gathering. So there's a little bit of watching what everyone else is doing and a little bit of seeing what's going out there. I'm really excited to try this with more than 2 players because I think that's going to add just some new dynamics to the game. But the puzzly nature of this one, the pattern building, the tile laying, the different ways of scoring. The first couple, I think we played maybe 3 or 4 times just the base rules. And our games were always really, really close. And then when we started playing with the advanced rules, I guess I'm just so focused on the patterns out here. I kept setting up my wife for getting those wooden meeples, and I just wasn't paying attention to how many she was getting, and she doubled scored on a bunch of her cards. I will say it does feel a little bit like it's a harder objective fulfill in terms of the hidden objectives. These objectives that are terrain based. One game I did a really good job of just building that terrain out and building that terrain out, and I got a lot of points from it. I think like 10 points. That's the other few games when I've had a terrain objective, it's been hard to get many points because even when people aren't trying, they have no idea what terrain you're trying to build out. They might maybe begin to surmise if they start to see one terrain color getting big and you keep adding to it. But I think most of the time they probably wouldn't notice, but just by accident they can cut you off. And so I felt it harder to do the terrain bonuses objectives than I did for the bug objectives. So And maybe that's just my style of play. Maybe that's just a limited number of plays. I think we've played 6 or 7 times now, but again, all at 2 players. So yeah, those are my initial reflections, having only played at the 2-player count. I do find it to be a fun 2-player game. We've never gotten through all the tiles. We've never gotten through all the wooden meeples, because with just 2 players, we easily get the 6 objectives before any of those other things happen. But again, I think that will be very different at higher player counts, and I could see possibly running out of tiles. I think it would be unlikely to run out of the wooden meeples, but it's in the rules, so apparently during playtesting that has come up for some probably player counts, I'm guessing higher player counts. But we really enjoyed this game. It does move pretty quickly. And like I said, it just kind of scratches all those fun itches if you like tiling, if you like pattern building, if you like seeking out objectives, and if you like those hidden objectives. It's got kind of scratches both of those itches if you like those kind of things. So this has been a pleasant little game, and even for a prototype, the quality is terrific. Even the inside of the box cover is really cute. And so yeah, if you enjoy tile laying games, if you enjoy pattern building, if you like cute animal themed games, if you like hidden and public objectives, all of those things I think are unique aspects of this game. Maybe not unique, a lot of games have them, but they are the features of this game that would probably make you enjoy this one if you're interested. So hopefully that helps, and if you have any questions, please leave those in the comments down below. As I said, I've got links for both the Kickstarter page and the BGG page if you want to read more about it or see some other people's pictures for this one. I've posted a few pictures on Instagram as well. If you enjoyed the video, though, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up, and it'd be terrific if you'd choose to subscribe to the channel. As always, thanks for watching. This is Billy, Indiana, signing off.